let's take a look at some available options for policies and creating policies. There are currently four built-in policies into Nessus. So if you just want to kind of get your feet wet, or don't want to necessarily start configuring and customizing your own policies right out of the chute when you install Nessus, you can go in and use the ones that we've pre-configured, and they're broken down into the targets that you're going to scan, and also whether or not you need to prepare for a PCI DSS audit, which is a special policy that is built in that you can see listed here. And so internal network scan is tuned to scan larger number of hosts that tend to have more services available. So that policy is tuned for that kind of environment. An external network scan is tuned to scan from the outside of your firewall on the internet. And your web application testing scan is configured to scan specifically web applications. So those are fun to play around with. In this demonstration, we're going to go through and configure some custom policies. Now I've got a bunch of examples of different scans that I want to show everyone. But let's go ahead and create a new policy first, just to get a feel for some of the options that are available. Each policy needs a name. I'll just call this test scan policy. And so first thing I do when I create a policy, and I recommend you take a look at the port scanners. One of the first things that Nessus needs to do in order to properly scan a host is it needs to make sure it's alive, right? That's this button right here, ping the host. Now it doesn't just send an ICMP ping, it can send ARP requests, it can send TCP packets to make sure that your host is still alive. Then enumerate the open ports, and you can see there's lots of different options for port scanners here. You can change the port range, and you can change the type of TCP scanner, or choose the UDP scanner, or if you're logging into the host, get your running services and open ports by running the netstat command. So the port scanner is extremely important to be able to first identify hosts and then tell you what ports are listening, so that the vulnerability scanner can tell you what vulnerabilities are present. We will go through credentialed scanning. This is where Nessus has the ability to log into a host and identify vulnerabilities. And then we come to the plugin section, and this is where some new functionality has been added to be able to filter on plugins. So they're pretty close to 50,000 plugins. You can see if you enable all of them, it says there are 47,929 at the time of this recording plugins that are available to you. Now that's a large section of information. I mean, that covers tons and tons of vulnerabilities. And Nessus does a fantastic job. If you want to enable all these plugins that come in here by default, you can do that, or you can use filtering. So I should back up. If you do enable all the plugins, you can just run your scan, and Nessus will use intelligence to identify the operating system and the ports that are open, and only run the plugins that are pertinent to that host against it. So some people are like, well, do I have to customize every scan? Not necessarily, because Nessus will make intelligent decisions about which plugins are fired. It will also automatically enable dependencies as well if you go and you start to carve this up, and enable only specific plugins. So I'm going to disable all my plugins, and then you can go in and you can add some very simple features here. You can enable just certain plugin families, as we call them. So if I wanted to check for all backdoor malware and viruses, that's a good plugin family to enable. And I can scan with just that plugin family enabled, of course. Or I can go in and I can add some other criteria here. And we can, I guess some of the best examples are, is there an exploit available for the vulnerability that you're running? And you can go in there and you can filter all 47,000 plus plugins on if there's an exploit available for it, and we pull from multiple sources to do that. We'll get into a little more detail as we go along. And so there's some great filtering options available. You can add multiple filters. So I can say, is it exploitable with the core impact framework, and it'll show me just those vulnerabilities. I can change my filter type from all to any, so I can change my criteria. So the filtering is extremely powerful inside of the plugins, and again, you'll see multiple examples of that.